Hi everyone, it's Susan, and this time we're having a look at the new moon in Capricorn. It is really the beginning of something very new. I think we can absolutely say that we're moving into a very different energy after this new moon. So this whole lunar cycle is quite important, and you of course want to keep that in mind for yourself personally. And no doubt globally as well, you'll be noticing all kinds of major shifts that are long lasting. These are really powerful changes because we have enough earth energy here that things will be lasting. Where to begin? We'll start with the new moon. A new moon is always when the sun and the moon come together. And in this case, it's in the sign of Capricorn at 20 degrees and 44 minutes of Capricorn. And this one is conjunct Pluto. So already we have something extremely powerful. This is in a very interesting nakshatra called Uttarashadha. This means it's the victorious one, or the where we find victory. And this victory is internal as well as external. So when we understand the nature of who we are, we have victory over all of the influences of life, all of the comings and goings, the fluctuations, the violences or the insults that we might withstand in a lifetime. When we understand our inseparable nature, we have achieved victory. This is the kind of victory that they're talking about. The star is known as invincible. In that nakshatra, it's called the invincible star. So wherever there's an assailant or an opponent or something to overcome, this is really great energy. So if you have this kind of energy in your chart, you have a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of wherewithal, especially with Pluto there. And this is not going to necessarily be personal to your personal planets, but it's definitely generational. If we go back 31 years, this was the place where this new moon is the place where the famous Uranus-Neptune conjunction happened. And that was between January of 1993 and February of 1994, January, February 94. So a very long time, the whole year of 1993, that this was in play. So if you are born anytime in 1993, there will be certain periods where it's more exact than others, where Uranus and Neptune were really tightly conjunct, but it was still really closely conjunct all through 93 and 94, and rather till January, early February of 94. And that happens to be the year when the Oslo peace accords were signed. The first stage of them was negotiated in 1993 under the Clinton administration between Palestine and Israel. And they were signed in Washington in September, on the 13th of September that year, 1993. And the reason that I mentioned this is because on the day of this, I didn't mention when the new moon was, sorry about that. Look over here on the left-hand side. On the 11th of January, so I'm doing this on the 8th because I'm a little behind. On the 11th of January, so Thursday, for all of us, it'll be the 11th of January everywhere we are, wherever you are, at almost noon. This is when the new moon will be exact in Capricorn, but it's already in orb whenever a moon is happening. There's always some days on either side of that, 2 or 3 days on either side of that is the phase of the lunation. It's still very, it takes about 3 days, let's say, for a lunation to complete its phase. So that's going to be in action from Tuesday through Friday, let's say, maybe, yeah, give or take Tuesday evening till Friday or even early Saturday morning. But it's exact on Thursday. And guess what's happening on Thursday? We have South Africa taking an extraordinarily well presented case of genocide to the International Court of Justice. And that will be heard. So that was already at the end of December. And that case will be heard on the 11th of January and the 12th of January in The Hague. Now, this I find really relevant, because when we're having a new moon exactly on that spot, we're getting right to the heart of that matter. Now, that is not a great chart. That chart for the peace accords, the Oslo peace accords, it does have Pluto square Saturn. There's a couple of things in, it's pretty clear that there was very little good faith, even on the part of the Americans at the time of those peace accords. The Palestinians did not really get taken seriously. So the agreement was, it is what it is. It's the result we're seeing today. And so this is what is actually going to be under discussion on Thursday and Friday in public hearings. So these public hearings mean that the file is open in terms of what will be said and any arguments said against that. Now, the interesting thing about this case is that the South Africans have been able to build a case almost entirely based on what Israeli officials and soldiers have said publicly, which is pretty unique in the case of a very serious charge like genocide, which usually is a little bit more oblique. People are not usually as open about these things in terms of the motives. So I'm not sure how this is going to go. We do have a very interesting configuration, which is that Mars is, and this is, by the way, the chart for Greenwich Mean Time, so happening in universal time with a Taurus rising. And that puts Jupiter in the ascendant, but Uranus is, of course, in the ascendant as well. And Uranus is trining that position of Uranus from back in 1993. So we have a Uranus trine to this new moon, which makes it kind of anybody's guess. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's all what it is, right? It's up in the air. Everything is going to be a bit chaotic, and very rarely is actual justice done in our three-dimensional world. So let's just say that it will be very interesting to see what comes out of this week, but also this lunar cycle. Because it's going to be incredibly unpredictable. I think it's going to be game-changing, but it will have an element of out of control, because that Uranus factor very strongly trining Uranus from 1993 in the Oslo Peace Accords, as well as the new moon. It's going to make this quite a ride, I'd say. So watch that space if you're interested in those kinds of things. Even still, on a level of change, we're looking at something that is going in a completely new direction with a lot of motivating and supportive energy. So we have Saturn, which is ruling this new moon. Of course, Saturn rules Capricorn. It's ruling this new moon from a Jupiter-ruled Pisces, and Jupiter itself is in the sign of Taurus, where it has been already since last May, continues to be till almost the end of this May. Jupiter itself is ruled by Venus, and Venus and Jupiter are in a mutual exchange. And so Venus is ruled by Jupiter, Jupiter is ruled by Venus. And so we have this really interesting support. I consider this to be very fortunate, which is not to say that people will get the result that they hope to see. Depending on the outcome, it's going to be a little bit hairy, I think. But with the fact that Jupiter and Venus are in a mutual reception is already really, really powerful for a chart with a Venus-ruled Taurus rising. And then, of course, the Saturn, which is ruling this new moon, is exactly almost like within just several minutes, within 2 minutes, in fact, is conjunct the fixed star Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut is very auspicious. Again, it can go both ways, because it depends a little bit about the let's say the motivations. But Fomalhaut can be really, really beneficial. Think about it in your own life. For starting something new auspiciously. This is a really, really good time for a very considered new beginning with a sense of high-mindedness. So Fomalhaut has the quality of Venus and Mercury. So there's a quality of engagement, a quality of something that is can be very very constructive, we'll call it constructive. And that is in a sextile to a very strong Mars in Capricorn. Mars in Capricorn is about integrity, determination, moving forward with a plan. And then Mars is ruled by that Saturn, of course, and Mars as well is in a trine to Jupiter. And of course, Jupiter is also trining Saturn. So we have these two trines here, Jupiter trining Saturn, Saturn trining Mars, Jupiter is sextiling Saturn, Saturn is sextiling Mars, and Mars itself is trining Jupiter. So just an enormous amount of positivity and support that is lending itself to going in a new direction with legs, going in a new direction with some kind of support behind it. Yeah, really, really interesting chart altogether. Now, a couple of things I just want to pull up here. Let's see if I can find this one. So I want to just pull up Israel's chart. This is based on, hang on, we're going to put Israel in the middle there. So they've got remember, a 23-degree Libra rising for Israel. Now, at the time of the new moon, Mercury is actually directly conjunct Jupiter. So this gives quite a lot of strength to Israel in terms of arguing its case, but Mercury is opposing Uranus. So Israel has Jupiter opposing Uranus in the chart, and Mercury is opposing that Uranus there. Mars is opposing Venus, and Venus rules this chart. So these are not necessarily easy aspects. There's also an inconjunct from Pluto to Mars, and there's also an inconjunct. Where was the other inconjunct? Hang on. No, I think I must have not been thinking correctly there. There's the one inconjunct I see, and then we've got Neptune, which is squaring Jupiter and squaring Uranus really strongly. So again, things are not entirely as they seem with regards to this energy of around the new moon and Israel. And we have Jupiter, again, at the time of this new moon, Jupiter is in a strong or moving away from, but still strong, a sextile with Venus, again, the chart ruler, and it's in a square to the moon. So Jupiter squaring the moon is not necessarily helpful in terms of the outcome, because Jupiter square moon can be excessive. It can be over the top. It can be extravagant or emotional. And the moon will represent the people in a chart like this. Israel has a Pluto-Saturn conjunction, which adds a lot of intensity, as well as the Mars in Leo. I mean, everybody knows that Israelis are known for being intense people, and that is squared their nodal axis. And so when we have Jupiter in March coming up to that north node, I'd say we'll get more of a sense of what is actually going on in terms of the what is happening now in January around this this court case. Perhaps not even then, but certainly not before March, I think. That would be about the 20th, from the last 10 days of March, and hopefully we'll find something out there. Now, let's come back just to this new moon, and we'll just for the moment focus on that. This new moon is also squaring the nodes. And so if we take this back, let's scale it back to a personal note. So again, for anybody who wants to start something new, especially if you have any planets or points around these degree points or around these areas of the chart that I'm talking about, this is an absolutely brilliant time. So stay focused and feel the energy behind this kind of new way of showing up. And with the moon actually squaring the nodes, this is a choice point. It's a point of inflection where we're moving towards something completely new. It's really like the precipice of some very new era, both personally as well as collectively. So we want to think big. We want to think with integrity. We want to think with the greatest or highest good in mind. We do have also the very, very, very last time ever in our lifetimes that we will have a new moon with Pluto in Capricorn. In fact, we will never have the sun and the moon with Pluto in Capricorn in our lifetimes again. And so this is, again, a kind of a wrapping up. It's a new thing as well as an old thing that we're, of course, just like every new moon, is always that tipping point between finishing up and starting something new, but in a big way. So really think big here. Think in terms of what you know is ready to shift, and especially in those places in your chart where these signs and houses show up. I will go through that in a moment, but think big and think in terms of what am I ready to let go of and where am I going towards with this. So this new moon is the energy that is new for you, and the place that you're going to be experiencing that is in the North Node energy, taking that towards the Aries energy, which is what you need, what you want, what is best for this new, fresh, more pioneering way of showing up. A letting go of old alliances, old ways of showing up. Now, again, collectively, this is absolutely what's happening. Letting go of old alliances, letting go of old contracts, agreements, accords of all kinds, but especially old ways of doing things. Maybe a tendency to compromise, or a way that that the way that you have been, or that we have been collectively accommodating and over accommodating and compromising, has not been working for us, and there's a new action necessary. So keep all of that in mind as I go through the rest. Let me just see if I've forgotten anything. And I think I'm good. So one of the things about Fomalhaut is there's a 2.5 degree orb. With fixed stars, you can't give big conjunction orbs, and it's only ever conjunctions. So fixed stars never do oppositions, squares, etc. It's only conjunctions. So you would need something within Pisces to benefit from Fomalhaut. You need something right now at 6 degrees and 40 minutes, or back to, let's say, 1 degree and 50 minutes, something like that. My math might not be very good there, but just to say that it's not all of the conjunction doesn't have the wide orbs like it does with the planets, for example. So pretty intense times, folks. And so we can even, with this Uranus trine, we can even go as far as to say that in April, because Uranus will then be moving direct towards this, so all through April, it's moving into that 19th, then 20th, then 21st degree of Taurus. This is going to recover this same trine. It's going to recover that same territory, and it will once again trine the Uranus of 1993 and into 1994. So again, that for those of you born in 93, this will be quite an impactful moment of reawakening. Now, you already had that. Basically, you've already had that for about 1.5 years. It's not new, but with this new moon, you're now starting something new in that cycle. And you particularly, your generation is now stepping up. So you are all, what are you, 31, 31. So yeah, at least you're 31, right? I guess at the youngest you would be 30. So there you go. It's kind of like handing on that baton, or handing on the keys to the house or the car or whatever it is, and look at the mess that we've left you. So there we go. But this is definitely a time for a new vision. So that Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn was really about having a new vision. There's a new structure, a new society, a new way of showing up, a new norms, going against norms, going against that. And this is what's being provoked right now with this new moon. So all right, and especially trining Uranus. So here we go. Let's have a look sign by sign, and there we go. I think we'll go back a little bit and start with Aries. So Aries, you're going to have this happening in your 10th house. So this is pretty amazing. Your ruler is in the 10th house. This is awesome for you, Aries. This is, of course, especially so if you are a rising sign or ascendant sign Aries, but it will also apply if you're sun or moon. So if it's your rising sign, then this is for sure in your 10th house. And if it's your sun, and that affects your whole life. It's your social status, it's your career, it's the way that you show up in the world, it's your sense of ambition and drive, especially with Mars there, your purpose. That's what gives Aries that quality, or Aries rising particularly, that quality of drive and ambition. It's that Capricorn 10th house. And so your ruler is up there. And if it is the sun, that's the 10th solar house. So it's the 10th house from the sun. And that still has that impact of your place of ambition and drive and purpose. And it will show up much more in terms of your work, or can be about your identity or your sense of purpose, and can relate to your father, for example, or important men as well. And then if it's your moon, then that's more your mind or your emotions and the way that you feel about things, how you might relate to that inwardly, to what's going on. It's 10 houses from the moon. That can affect your relationships, for example, the sense of your connections with the people that are important, and what causes that feeling of social status, or that relational status. That can also be with reference to your mother, and especially since it's the 10th house, that is the axis of the parents anyway. So this might have something to do with your parents. So we have, the Cancer Capricorn axis there on the 4th and 10th houses. And so for Aries, this could be something to do with parents, for sure. But nonetheless, this is a great time for you to be really working your stuff, because you've got the North Node squaring that new moon. So North Node in your first house, squaring that new moon in your 10th house, with Pluto for the last time, and with Mars, which is super exalted, very energized in the 10th. Your South Node is in the 7th. Something needs to go, something needs to change in relationships. It's either a way that you are in relationship, or relationships themselves that need to change. And either way, it's time to move on from that. You have this Saturn in the 12th house that's been there since March, so it's not new. But here we have a sense of something coming from an unconscious place, or from a sense of maybe your hidden desires, or things that you're not really clear about, that you're trying to get some kind of support from. So it's a good time to have a sense of more spiritual support as well. You also have Venus and Mercury up in the 9th, and that gives you a higher vision as well. I forgot to mention in the overalls that Mercury is squaring Neptune. And that's really important, because Mercury squaring Neptune is actually not necessarily going to bring clarity. It's not going to necessarily give clear results. Now, that's extremely important in terms of the case that is being brought by South Africa to the court in The Hague. So let's see. We also have the Jupiter and Uranus in the 2nd house still, which is trining that Mars in the 10th house. So something that's coming up here is also about how you earn money. If it is something to do with family, then there's something that's shifting in terms of your responsibilities around family. But it looks quite positive. So just be careful that you're either you're keeping your vision and your thinking high-minded, or you want to just be careful that you might be not seeing all the details clearly. You do tend to kind of dash into things. So with the Mercury squaring Neptune, you might be actually missing some of those details that would really benefit from a review. So just take your time, perhaps waiting until Mercury moves into your 10th house until you take action, which is very soon. It's coming only a couple of days after. I think it's like the 13th of January. So just wait. When Mercury moves into your 10th, at that point, you'll probably be more clear, and then you can take action, Aries. All right, good luck with that. Taurus, this is happening in your ninth house, which is a wonderful place for this kind of dynamism. It's about your sense of your purpose. It's a fortunate house. It brings you a lot of good fortune to have a very exalted, strong Mars in a trine to Jupiter, which is in your first house. And that's bringing you some real sense of drive and purpose and goals that you want to achieve in the longer term, the bigger picture. Also with Saturn involved in a very supportive sextile from Mars and sextiling Jupiter as well, which Jupiter is ruling the Saturn in Pisces and Saturn is ruling that Mars in Capricorn. I think you can really pull some things together here to envisage your future, have a new sense of vision for either, could be as simple as your social groups and sort of reordering the people that you hang out with and the purpose that you have behind your socializing. But it can also be even around political orientation or a spiritual orientation or a sense of what you want your future to look like, how you want to engage in the future. And this is very supportive. It gives you long-lasting support for change. Now, that Uranus in your first house in a trine to the new moon in the ninth house will require you personally to make an adjustment so that whatever it is that is starting again in the ninth house, it requires a lot of your personal flexibility and change. That's not always easy for Taurus. But that's going to happen when Pluto moves in on the 21st of January to your 10th house. So change is coming. Just hang on. If you're not ready to do it yourself, it's going to happen one way or another. So I would get pen and paper and or your mobile device and get sorting out your wish list for the future and try to figure out what it is that you see for yourself. You have a very visionary Mercury along with Venus in the 8th house, and Venus is your ruler, and she is in a mutual reception from the 8th house to the 1st house with your Jupiter there in Taurus. And so this energy, especially for Taurus ascendant, but also, of course, for Taurus sun and moon, is going to be very supportive for picturing yourself in the future, perhaps with the support of a relationship or the support of money that's coming from other people with Venus in the 8th, in that support from Jupiter ruled by Venus. So it looks like you're doing something right here, Taurus. This can be very, very good for investments. Again, the one wild card is that Uranus in trine to the new moon, but that might be just the push that you need to take a wee risk. Venus is in a trine to Chiron, and so there can be, if there is something coming up around relationships that is not entirely clear, or where communication hasn't been very clear, because we do have that Mercury squaring Neptune, then there's definitely an opportunity to heal through a conversation. So Venus in a trine to Chiron can really heal some wounds around things that you might be finding are holding you back, or that may be coming from unconscious motivations or secrets or things that have not really been supportive. Now, the moon itself is squaring the nodes in your 12th and 6th house axis. So there's a very strong spiritual energy here. So there's that 9th house, 12th house connection is very spiritual, very high-minded. It can involve foreign lands, foreign people, foreign places, faraway places, hidden places. And it's changing your everyday experience. So the South node in the 6th house is your everyday experience that you're letting go, and it can be around even potentially illness. With Venus in the 8th, that's the house of medicine and remedies. It's the house of mental health as well. Same with the 12th house. There can be this need for healing around something that may have been problematic. Venus rules your 6th and she's in the 8th, so there may have been something problematic, but you're letting it go now. So looks like you can set a kind of a new cycle here, Taurus, where you decide you have a new sense of purpose or vision for yourself, or a new even belief, a new sense of what you want to achieve, then when Pluto moves into your 10th house, you've got that behind the energy of Pluto. You've got that support of all of this understanding. That is what allows you to take advantage of that Pluto in the 10th, which is changing your social status and your career and even your sense of ambition. So great new moon, really powerful, very helpful to have that in the fellow earth sign of Capricorn, Taurus. So make the most of that, and I'll see you in the next video. So Gemini, this is happening in the 8th house. That's a hidden part of your chart. So it's especially true if you're Gemini rising, but of course still true for Sun and Moon as well, because we use derived houses. So you count then eight houses from the Sun or Moon or the rising sign. And so there's a resonance there. And here we have a lot going on behind the scenes for Geminis, because we've got Jupiter and Uranus in the 12th house. We've got all of this energy of Capricorn in the 8th house, very powerfully supported by the trine from Mars to Jupiter, as well as the sextile from Mars to Saturn in your 10th house. And you have that Fomalhaut conjunct Saturn in the 10th house that is part of that trine sextile configuration. So the Saturn sextiling Jupiter, which is ruling the Saturn, and the Saturn sextiling Mars, which is ruling the Mars. And it's very supportive. So it looks like there might be some support or some drive or some kind of ambition that is coming through either hidden elements or something that might come from far away, or from an agreement, or from something that you have taken care of in terms of contracts. Now, Mars in the 8th house can really throw a monkey wrench into agreements or receiving money. There can often be challenges or some kind of something that's not entirely easy, free, or forthright or forthcoming with Mars in the 8th house. I'd have to see your natal chart to see what that's all about, but it's still a very strong dignity for Mars in Capricorn. There may be some real challenges, one kind of last push to be motivated around whatever this is in the 8th house that can be very strongly connected to your personal transformation, personal growth. Your ruler is in the 7th house along with Venus, so there may be some new understanding in terms of contracts or people that you work with, or either relationship partners of all kinds, like intimate ones or good friends or business partners that are there for you. And then when Mercury moves into that 8th house, that's going to pull much more of your awareness in the 8th house area, so you can maybe resolve whatever might be there that needs to be dealt with. But I'm not so sure that it's problematic, given all of the support, where Saturn particularly is sitting at the top of your chart. It might just be more about working hard, having to put in much more effort and work. The nodes are moving in from your 5th to your 11th house, in that axis of your what you need to let go of in terms of what might be something that is a distraction to you. The 5th house, it can be needing to let go of things that are taking away from your success. And with Saturn in the 10th house, you need to focus now on your worldly engagements, whether that be a job or other kinds of worldly responsibility, or a focus on your ambitions. And the North Node in the 11th house is focusing on new groups and spending time with new people, or having a new vision, new future plans for yourself. So Gemini, this looks really, really good for you, but I think much of the work is going to be behind the scenes. It's not necessarily going to be super obvious, but the results will be, because of the Saturn going through the 10th house. So the results will be there, just not necessarily through the easiest route. So basically, stay focused, Gemini. Stay focused on your goal. Don't get too distracted. And then when Pluto moves into your 9th house, you could also be able to apply some of this new realization around perhaps what you want, what you feel is necessary for you, coming from a deeper motivation or from information that you might discover, because that new moon in the 8th house, especially with Mars, can also represent, or especially with Pluto, can also represent that you're discovering secrets about things, something that you needed to know, or something that you didn't understand. Could be about family, could be about inheritance, could be about business partners, and so on. But you will then have a way of doing something about it especially when your ruler Mercury moves through that house over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So there we are. So Gemini, make the most of that. I'm curious to see what will happen for Geminis. It's a difficult one to read because there's like some good and bad mixed in there, but on balance, I'd say good. So good luck with all of that. I'll see you in the next video. Cancer, this is happening all in your house of relationships. So a lot going on in relationships. So get out the door, Cancer. Don't stay at home. Something helpful is coming through work relationships, business partners, potentially a life partner. That would depend on your natal chart. We would need to see what's already going on in your chart, where you are in your life, and so on and so on. It's not just because of a transit going through a house that you're going to suddenly rock up with a new partner. So just to say, but the potential is very strong if there are other indications in the chart that you're in a cycle for a relationship. And this can otherwise be something to do with clients and new business partners. Certainly a lot of motivation there. With Saturn in a sextile, very supportive sextile from that very, very strong Mars in the 7th. You do have a lot of great support for whatever the new vision or project is for your sense of purpose. Perhaps that's something to do with studies or some kind of new vision for your higher learning of some kind. And that doesn't have to be formal necessarily. It's just higher learning in the sense of learning bigger things than just kind of practical details. So it could be even about learning something to do with philosophy, for example, or politics, or religion, spiritual practices of some kind. We have Jupiter still there in the 11th, and that is in a strong sextile to Saturn, and it's strongly, almost exactly trining Mars. So whatever is going on here in terms of relationships is being fed into and is feeding back from the 11th house of friends. And again, your vision for the future. If it is about a relationship, you might meet somebody through a friend, or you might meet somebody through a networker, some like Indian auntie who's going to set you up with somebody, or somebody that is of benefit. And that can also apply, strictly speaking, to work as well, because you do have Venus and Mercury in your 6th house of everyday work and health and so on. And you do, of course, have the North Node in the 10th. So there's a lot of emphasis on work. And the nodal axis is squared by this new moon. And of course, the moon is your ruler, Cancer. So always very important what's happening with the lunations for Cancer. And you're just about to get rid of Pluto, who is moving into the 8th house after 15 very long years in the 7th house, speaking from personal experience. And so that can also shift, because Pluto going into the 8th house is shared resources, again, intimacy, marriage, inheritance, etc., etc. So secrets, there's all kinds of other things that can come from the 8th house as well. But what else have we got? We've got Mercury from the 6th in a square to Neptune in the 9th, both of which are ruled by Jupiter in the 11th. So whatever your work plans are, your sense of your focus and communications around work are nourished by your vision and supported by friends, or the sense of what it is that you want to do, with whom you want to do it in the new structures of your life. That Jupiter can also represent income coming from the 6th house that it's ruling, the work that you do. So the 10th house is what you're doing, how you're showing up, and the thing that you do. And 11th house is the second from the 10th, so that's giving you some extra earnings potential, and especially so from the fact that Jupiter rules your sixth. So whatever you're doing every day, make it efficient, make it worthwhile, so that you're not wasting time and this opportunity to increase your earnings, because that's another potential here. So, so looking really interesting for Cancers. Now, when you have Mars in the opposite sign, again, depending on your natal chart, there can be just more energy around relationship. There can also be here and there some conflict around relationship. But that's a long period of time where Mars is there. So it's not just about this new moon. It's 3 weeks, I think, where you've got Mars there in the 7th. And so you be careful of engaging in power struggles and things like that. But, let's face it, you've had Pluto there. That's what you've been practicing for these last 15 years. So Mars will feel like a piece of cake. So there you are, Cancer. Make the best of that. Have a great lunar cycle, and I'll be back with the full moon very soon. So Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is happening in your 6th house of work, your health, your everyday life. And so maybe a little bit less glamorous than for some of the other signs, but very important because the 6th house is what happens every single day. So you also have the trine from Mars in the 6th to Jupiter in your 10th. So this, whatever it is, the way that things are taking shape now and in a new way for you in your work life or in your everyday life is going to affect your career or your social identity or your status or your sense of ambition, for example. This might have something to do with your marriage. Saturn is in the house of marriage. It's ruling this new moon, and it's in a sextile to Mars, and it's in a sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter is ruling Saturn, and Saturn is ruling Mars. So there's something here that might have to do with a business partnership or a marriage, and that requires some adjustment because there's something, whatever this is, that Mars sextiling Saturn gives you a sense of courage and determination. So you would usually need that because something's not super easy. When Saturn goes through the 8th is a time when you often feel like you got to do something on your own, or you have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. You definitely have more going on with Jupiter in the 10th house. More opportunities coming your way. It's not necessarily on solid ground though, because of that Uranus. Which is not to say that it can't be successful. It just means that it's not predictable. So for the next couple of years still, and since 2018, Uranus has been changing your sense of identity and maybe what you think you're doing in terms of career. That Uranus is trining your 6th house where the new moon is. And so whatever that is new, it really needs to show up in a different way, which may not be so easy to figure out because it's going to be something that feels very new. It'll feel perhaps even a bit vulnerable or a bit risky because it's very public what's going on there in terms of your everyday work and then showing up in the public sphere, basically. Now that moon is also squaring the nodes. And so in your case, the north node is in the 9th. And that's where we're aiming to resolve this square. We're aiming to, or at least we're aiming to go in that direction of the new thing in the 9th house. Let's call it the resolution or the guts and the sense of courage that you need to get to go to that north node is coming from your 12th house of spirit, your 12th house of understanding, and your deeper sense of self. And so that's going to take you to this new vision for yourself, a new sense of purpose. That can also involve a new belief, especially as we're looking at that 12th house to fill up the tank, as it were, to give you the courage to go to that north node. New belief, new sense of faith, new sense of purpose. And it's coming from saying, you know what, I've got to change this in my everyday life. What is that? Is it your diet? Is it your work? Is it your health? Is it something to do with a contract or something that you need to resolve in some kind of conflict with employees or colleagues, for example? There's so many options. I would need to see your chart, but nonetheless, pull your socks up there, Leo, because whatever you're going to do that's different, it's going to show up in the world, and you're going to seize that opportunity with Jupiter in the 10th while it's still there till about the end of May, and really light up the sky with whatever the new thing is. So good luck with that. I will see you in the next video. So we have now the 5th house new moon. That's a lovely place, Virgo. So that's for Virgo sun, moon, and ascendant signs. So the 5th house is a lucky house. You have Jupiter in the 9th house, which is also a lucky house. And this is a really great opportunity for you to seize some new momentum, perhaps coming through new relationships, because Saturn, which is ruling this new moon, is in your 7th house of relationships, and it's conjunct Fomalhaut, which is giving it a real sense of auspiciousness. And that is also in a sextile to Jupiter, which is ruling that Saturn ruling not only the new moon, but also Mars, which it is also sextiling from your 5th house. So you've got a lot of drive. You've got a very strong sense of creativity and purpose here. This is a whole lunar cycle, but of course it also can extend till the following cycle, meaning that this new moon is going to show up as the full moon when we have the full moon in Capricorn during the summertime, while the sun is in Cancer. So this is something that you can think of as in terms of a long-term ambition, a long-term goal that is coming from perhaps something that you really love to do. Could also relate to a relationship, new relationship, for example. You have, so Mars in the 5th house can be very dynamic for connecting with new love relationships, or people who you do sports with, or people who you just enjoy having fun with. This is about creativity and expressing that creativity, and it's long lasting. Something's going to have legs here with this Mars trining Jupiter up in the 9th house. It's got meaning and purpose for you. You feel that drive now. You feel this sense of new possibilities. So, and then also with that Saturn in the 7th, equally giving that support, that's something that will show you who is worthy of being on your team, who do you want on your side, and who do you need to say, see you later, I'll help you another day, be nice about it, and just say, it doesn't work for me now. Because you're definitely going through a time where either people are walking away from you, and that's okay, because it's probably not about you, or you're really needing to walk away from other people. And this is a really good time to feel that housekeeping. The North Node is in your 8th house. It's squaring this new moon. And so part of your future vision for yourself is where you're taking this North Node energy into new places of cooperation, new potential understanding of yourself and your inner motivations, a new sense of what is shared with other people, or what you need to connect with other people. So that's very intimate to Virgo. It's not something that people will necessarily be seeing. It's a much more behind the scenes kind of energy, but it's coming from what you find passion in, what you feel is motivating you right now. So enjoy that, Virgo. I think this can bring you some real lasting benefit in relationships, and certainly in terms of growing, because Jupiter, remember, after May is going to be in your 10th house. So the way that you're setting yourself up now is going to show up basically for the next year in your favor. So Jupiter trining your 1st house with this special trine from the new moon. All systems go. Whatever the thing is, take it seriously. Don't faff around. Your ruler is in the 4th house about to move into the fifth house, so you'll gain in that creativity, but your ruler is also squaring Neptune, so that can be very creative. But it also might be that your feelings are a bit confused here. I'd have to see your natal chart to really know how that's all playing out. Maybe about the feelings being a bit confused. And don't get yourself sucked into a sob story. That square Mercury squaring Neptune in your seventh. Don't get yourself sucked into a sob story. Virgo, you are always doing that, picking up strays, as it were. So this would be a time to wait till your ruler moves into Capricorn, where it's a little bit more grounded. That's always good for Mercury. Mercury in Sagittarius can bite off a little more than it can chew. So anyway, make the best of that. I'll see you in the next video. And so Libra, sun, moon, or ascendant sign, this is happening in your fourth house of home. This is your roots and your sense of your family and your lineage, for example. This can also be connected to how you feel, what makes you happy, what brings you joy, a sense of what brings you security as well. So there's something here that is coming from what you need to take action on. Now, your ruler's in the third house, so there's maybe something connected to your neighbors or how you communicate about things, or even siblings, or just potential ideas around that, because you've got Mercury in there with Venus. And there's something here that requires your effort on a day-to-day level. For this new thing to take shape. So it's about whatever is new here and that is bringing you security, and that is something new around the house and home, which might be literally physically house and home as well, is going to require a little bit of doing, because Saturn in the sixth house requires some effort here, some attention to detail, or some a sense of maybe needing to get your shoulder to the grindstone. And then that is supported by Jupiter in your eighth house. So you definitely are getting support by other people, coming from other people. And Jupiter and your ruler Venus are in a lovely mutual reception. So Venus is ruling Jupiter, Jupiter is ruling Venus, and that's very helpful. And then, of course, so that Mars is in a sextile to Saturn, and Saturn is in a sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter is in a trine to Mars from your fourth, sixth, and eighth house. So definitely hard work. These are not the easiest houses. So there's work involved. There's some kind of need for organization or planning or structure around things, but it will bring you results. And it's definitely time to do something seriously around what makes you happy, what makes you feel secure. And perhaps this is needing to, just like with Aries, needing to involve you in the life of your family, your parents, for example. You might need to get involved in some way with what's going on in the family or your parents. So you've got the North Node in the seventh house squaring the moon. And so it's definitely going to involve a new way of showing up in relationships. The moon is showing you something that needs to change, and that might change your relationships, or it's the fact that your relationships are changing that requires you to have a new sense of drive and ambition around your fourth house. That could be about purchasing property, but it can also be more about your emotional sense of security. So it's not necessarily just house and home and where you live, but actually how do you feel in your skin, as it were. Yeah, so Libra, this is very supportive. I do find it very supportive for you, but it's going to require some effort on your part. You definitely have some blessings with the Jupiter in the eighth. Something is coming in with the help of other people. So make the most of that, Libra. I will see you in the next video. Scorpio, this is happening in your third house of your siblings, your communication. It can be something to do with internet or your website or media of some kind, publicity, communication, teaching, this kind of thing. And just busyness, which you are anyway, because you've got Aries there on the sixth house. So you're always running around. That's your your ruler, Mars, ruling your sixth house, keeping you busy. And now your ruler is in the third house, making you busy, which you like. Let's face it, you like that. You've got Jupiter in the seventh, so there's a lot of action around relationships, and that's in a lovely trine to that Mars, supporting from your third house to your seventh house, supportive trine between your third house of everyday connections with people and your seventh house of relationships or business partnerships, for example. Something new coming in here, something new that you might decide now, or you might realize now that you have to move, or that you need to, especially with Pluto going in your fourth, something big is changing anyway around your foundations, around whether that's a physical foundation or your sense of what you need to feel psychologically secure, what you need to feel happy. That's all going to happen over the next 20 years, with Pluto very soon going to be moving into your fourth house. This will be perhaps preparation for all of that, where you're starting to recognize what the details are that you need to sort out. This moon is squaring the nodes, and the north node is in your sixth house. So this is a busy year for you anyway. And so whatever it is that the new moon is highlighting, and this new cycle that you're beginning, or your new goals, maybe these are more short-term goals. It's like a bucket list, like a checklist, things that you need to sort out, or the details of skills and things that you might need to learn. It's going to pay off in your sixth house of work. And it will be maybe tied into having to overcome perhaps obstacles around, paperwork and all the usual messy stuff of life. That can also involve health. Now, that for you is not entirely new, because you've had Chiron going through the sixth house for several years already. So since 2018, Chiron has been in the sixth. That may have affected some of you in terms of your health. Mars from your third is sextiling Saturn in the fifth, and Saturn is ruling the Mars. So there's something here in terms of your creativity, a new desire, or a new sense of your self-expression. This might have something to do with children. The third house is also siblings and cousins and extended family. So there may be something there that's connected to your need to contribute to that, or what it is that you want to do and structure. With Jupiter in the seventh, also in a sextile to Saturn and in a trine to Mars, you might be finding a partnership that helps you to create this new vision for what it is that you'd like to do. This can be a commercial desire as well. Again, I need to see your natal chart to see the potentials here, but those are all these possibilities. If you have a goal, a business goal, or a goal for a hobby or a project, you want to go to the Olympics, whatever it is, you get on it right now, because this is going to give you a lot of determination and bring you some real success here, because this is long-lasting determination and bringing you something that's going to show up very differently in your everyday life at the least over the next year. But this can be a longer range thing as well, something much more lasting, because we're talking about Saturn here, which is there for 2 more years. So get on it there, Scorpio, and I'll see you in the next video. Sagittarius, you have your ruler in the sixth house in a mutual reception with Venus, which is in your house, in the first house. And that's very supportive. And your ruler, Jupiter, is also in a trine to Mars in your second house. So it looks like there's something coming up here around the money that you earn, how you're earning that. What it is that you do. Now, ignore the fact that the moon has now moved into Aquarius, because I'm just moving the clock face here. I'm just moving the horoscope around so that we can get the different rising signs. But the moon is very much the moon in Capricorn. So that's something that is all happening in your house of your resources, your income, the stuff that you own, your values and your own sense of value. And with Jupiter in the sixth house, there might be a lot of work, a lot of stuff happening. With Venus in the first house, you probably are feeling pretty good about it, I'd say, because it's actually bringing you a feeling of reaching out, being social, wanting to connect. You've got the North Node in your fifth house, which has you deciding on something that really you want to engage in for yourself, coming through your own values or coming through your desires to make income. That may be about a new business, for example, new business venture. If that's the case, this is a good time to launch that. Of course, it depends on your natal chart. If you are interested in having advice around launching things, ask me or another astrologer to look at your natal chart and the timings of things, because sometimes even if the transits are great, it's not necessarily good for your chart. So, but nonetheless, all in all, a good time to launch something new. With Saturn in the fourth house, that's the angular house. It's going to give you a lot of stability as well. So already the Earth trine between Jupiter and Mars from the 2nd to the 6th is bringing stability. And then Saturn in a sextile to that Jupiter, ruled by that Jupiter, and then Saturn sextiling Mars, ruling that Mars, is whatever this is going to be a one step towards finding your own sense of security, your sense of financial or emotional security, or reconfiguring your home and family. That's going to be a long-term stabilizer. What else do we need to say here? So we've got we've got Mercury in the first house squaring Neptune in your fourth. So there's something here maybe that is about how you need to communicate what your vision is or your dream is, or maybe you're having a sense of vision around what it is that you need. Your emotional nature might be there, kind of highlighted there a little bit. Which may or may not be good, depends again on your natal chart and how you are generally speaking with emotions. With Saturn going through the fourth, it can be difficult to communicate emotions and express how you're really feeling. Might feel a little bit heavy even at times. But whatever has been difficult is getting a real boost now. So there's something here that can bring you some a feeling of shifting energy, something very different coming in, particularly strongly as Pluto is going to move into your third house and bring you some new ways of communicating, new ways of thinking about things, new environment in your local environment or connections with families, and so on. Right. I think I've covered it. North Node in your fifth house, I did mention that's so that's where the square is coming from, the 2nd to the 5th. So something to do with money and your creativity, how you reach out and express yourself, how you want to express yourself is going to be part of this new cycle in terms of earned income or money that you need to nest egg, for example, that you need to that you want to keep for a rainy day. All right, so good luck there, Sagittarius, and I'll see you in the next video. So Capricorn, even though this moon is now dodging, is all going now a little pear-shaped, Capricorn, you definitely are in this new moon phase. So the new moon is in your first house, along with Pluto, along with Mars, which is super strong for Capricorn. And this is applying to the ascendant sign or the sun and the moon in Capricorn. And so you're in an incredibly powerful dynamic phase. Your ruler Saturn is in your third house, and that's all the way through till February 2026. And just at this moment of the new moon, you have Fomalhaut, where the Saturn has just conjunct Fomalhaut, which is about bringing something of benefit. It's bringing something auspicious into this area of your life. That's going to be with regards to contracts or communications, siblings, your neighbors, your how you express yourself. It could be your website, it could be social media, it could be media in general, writing. If you're feeling like you want to get practical and get writing something down, doing that is very helpful because Jupiter is in your house of creativity. And it's in a sextile to that Saturn. So it could even be about singing, for example. It can be like your enthusiasm for singing, as Jupiter is in Taurus. Jupiter is trining Mars from your first house. So whatever is going on in terms of, it could be about your children, as well. It can be about entrepreneurship or about your own just pure creativity, your drive, your sense of fun and enjoyment in life. Saturn is sextiling that Jupiter. Saturn is sextiling Mars. It's ruling the Mars. Jupiter's ruling Saturn. And the three of them are working together in this way that pulls in third house skills, fifth house drive, ambition, potentially even athletic skill, creative drive. And the first house is you, where the elbow grease is coming from, with Mars there in a very strong dignity. So if you have a goal, if you have an ambition, a big dream, your name in lights, you want to achieve success, you know, go on an Olympic team, or you have a vision for yourself, to succeed in business, this is your month. This is definitely the time to jump on that. Now, having said that, the South Node is in your 10th house, the North Node is in your 4th house. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be working. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking care of your career. What it means is that it's not so much about your ambition, or it's not so much about the career or your social status, but your focus is much more on what you need to be happy. North Node in the 4th house. What do you need to feel secure emotionally, psychologically, the potential even materially? What do you need? And that is part of this new moon, because the new moon is squaring the nodes for Capricorn, even though it looks a bit messy. So imagine that the moon is actually conjunct that sun back at 20 degrees in Capricorn. So it's just easier for me to keep moving the horoscope this way. So apologies for the mess there, Capricorn, but I do hope you got the message either way. So all best wishes to you. Very soon, a couple of days after, you've also got Mercury moving back into Capricorn and staying there for about 3 weeks. And then soon enough, you'll have Venus there too. So you are really doing well. I'll come back and share more about that at the full moon coming up in 2 weeks' time. And you will be, you'll see that you will be blessed with lots of energy, but very positive support in your first house at the time of that full moon as well. So you go there, Capricorn, and make the most of this beautiful energy. I think I've said it all. I'm going to leave it for now and see you in the next video. So Aquarius, I'm afraid you do not have the moon in your sign at this particular juncture. So imagine we're still on the 11th of January and it is the new moon in your 12th house. So think of this new moon in the 12th house as a final hurrah, a final way of recognizing the last 15 years of depth of understanding, what you have gleaned from having Pluto there in your 12th house, trying to understand yourself, trying to make sense of hidden motivations, trying to make sense of perhaps your connection to your ancestors, to your spiritual life, maybe ambitions around places of retreat of some kind. That can be that you are working in these kinds of places, whether it be a clinic or a school, or some kind of intern in what do you call that? A place where you would stay, like a monastery or an ashram, or can be a prison even. It was something that might have to do with turning in on yourself, turning inward, or being behind the scenes. And so this new moon is kind of highlighting that for you and saying, do I really want this? Do I want to be behind the scenes? Have I done enough behind the scenes? Have I got that message? And then when Pluto goes into your first house, you'll be clear about that. And when Pluto goes in the first house, you're ready now to change. If it's that you are ready to step out and step into a bigger spotlight, take on more of a public role, or take on a more powerful role, then you will see this new moon as recognizing, now it's time for a new phase. I've done the thing. If you listen to the introduction to this video about 1993, early 1994, this may be a concern for some of you around that age, where you realize, you know what, I have been hiding my light under a bushel for so long, and now I am going to step out, and this new moon is me preparing to do that. Mars is in a trine to Jupiter in your 4th house. So it's bringing you a lot of support coming from hidden sources coming from places that are not necessarily obvious. Your ruler is sextiling. So Saturn is your ruler. Ruler is sextiling that Jupiter, and Jupiter is ruling your ruler. And then Saturn is also ruling Mars, and Mars and Saturn are in sextile as well. Saturn is also conjunct Fomalhaut in your second house of earned incomes. So your whatever supports you, your family, your preferences, or your values. That can also be your sense of self-worth, but it can also be the money and the stuff that you have. And so there may be something here that is really a new opportunity for you, that you're on the precipice of something that is bringing you a fresh new opportunity. You've got Venus in the 11th, so maybe there's something coming through there, through friends, people that you know who've been supportive. Your North Node is in the third house, so it's about having new goals, showing up in a different way, communicating in a different way, showing up locally or within your family in a different way. There's something new that needs to happen in terms of how you connect, how you interact. The third house is your skills as well. So maybe there's a need to develop more skills so that you can achieve this thing that you are looking to achieve when Pluto moves in to your first house. So you're going to have Pluto moving into the first while you have Jupiter in the fourth. So you've got a lot of emotional support. You've got a lot of stability that will bring you some real joy and real benefit. And later in the year, June, we're going to talk about the Pluto trining Jupiter from your first to the fifth house. So for some of you, I know you're fearing this Pluto going through the first house. Don't fear it. Think of it as your opportunity to change yourself, to transform yourself, to discover your own personal power. And if you fear having your own personal power, then that's the bigger question to focus in on. Why do I fear my own capacities? Why do I fear my own potential? So I think this new moon in your 12th house can show you a lot of what's going on in your unconscious or behind the scenes, and what it is that you feel is no longer really working for you, what you're really ready to give up. And think of it as preparation for Pluto now taking its position in your first house for a very, very long time to come. So good luck with that, Aquarius. I will see you in the next video. So Pisces, this new moon is happening in your 11th house. Ignore the fact that the moon is in your 12th house, because it's just the horoscope keeps moving because I'm too lazy to make new screens each time. So we've got the new moon happening in your 11th house, along with Mars, which is in strong, strong dignity in Capricorn, and Pluto for the very last time. So this is the very last time Pluto will be with the sun or the moon, and certainly not both of them together, in Capricorn. And so Pisces, this is also happening with a really supportive, oh, by the way, so the 11th house there for Pisces is really all about your friendships and your sense of your future, what it is that your goals, your vision for the future. That's also the place of the money that you earn from what you do. So there's something around money that might be a new opportunity or a new sense of a new cycle that you want to begin around money. Maybe taking more responsibility around money. Saturn, which is ruling your 11th, is in your first house, and it's on Fomalhaut. So there's some really supportive energy there for you. It's a really interesting new moon for a sense of auspicious new starts. Get serious. Don't waste your time. That's also your ruler, Jupiter, is in your third house. And that's also sextiling Saturn, and it's trining Mars in your 11th. So whatever the third house for you represents, could be something to do with how you express yourself, or your media communications around your website, for example, or social media, especially because it's pulling the third house and the 11th house together. If that's one of the things that you do, if that's how you make money, do it really well. Like, put a lot of attention and time into devising a plan, having a new idea around that, and you will succeed. It's going to bring you some real benefits. The North Node, which is squaring this this new moon is in your second house of earned income. So really for the last 6 months or so, and for the whole of 2024, issues around earned income, your value, your valuables as well. It's all there in the forefront of your mind. It's a really important focus for you now. So this new moon brings you a great opportunity to start something new. It can be about taking responsibility for yourself financially, because we do have the South Node in the 8th house. Venus is in the 10th. That's connecting with your career. Venus is ruled by Jupiter, your ruler as well. The 10th house is ruled by Jupiter and for Pisces, because it's Sagittarius, and that Jupiter is in the 3rd house, and that's a house of commerce. It's siblings. This could be also about siblings. Mars in the 11th would be older brothers, for example. What else? That could be about writing, communicating online, or writing like the old-fashioned way, writing a book, for example. If that's the case, then this would be a really good opportunity for you to get serious about that project. Maybe you're going to need a team or a sense of some new vision for that, because it's something new happening in the 11th house. Can be new groups of people. You'll be meeting new friends, new connections through the 11th house, networks of people. And this is, of course, the last time that Pluto will be there in the 11th house, along with the sun and the moon. So there's something that you're closing down, something that you're ending in terms of perhaps a vision for yourself that may 15 years ago, or over the course of 15 years, you will have transformed that sense of what your future held for you, what your vision was for the future, what were your big long-term goals. And now it's just like, yeah, that's not it anymore. I'm getting it now. We're moving on, and we're doing this new thing. This is a great new moon to get clear. What is that new thing? And just to be, once again, be very clear, this is on the 11th of January for all of us. It's just that I've moved the chart around. Uranus is trining this new moon from the 3rd house. Uranus is still retrograde and going through that process of old territory that has already been covered over the last year. So you're revising ideas or ways of communicating, or your shorter term goals or skills that right now you're going over in the course of this new thing. But soon enough, at the end of January, that's going to move direct, and then the whole cycle will be done. The whole process will be done by the time of the full moon. So I'll come back with a video around the full moon, and I look forward to seeing you again then. Thanks, Pisces. See you soon.